Hey, Archie, the closer I get to retirement, I know I'm going to struggle with the idea that I'm going to go from being a saver to a spender.
That is something a lot of people struggle with, so let's talk about it. Weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. This is Last Paycheck. Welcome back to the Last Paycheck podcast, brought to you by Hoxton Planning and Management. We're your hosts, CFP professionals Archie Hoxton and Rob Hoxton, and today we're going to talk about a common problem that we see people have when they enter retirement. And it's not really a problem. It's kind of like this. We see two kinds of people. People who are really good savers, but really bad spenders.
And then some people who are really good spenders.
And really bad savers. They're both problems.
Yeah.
Probably being a good saver and a bad spender is a better problem to have because you can always be coached to spend a little more. It is very hard and the stakes are high to go. So we're going to talk about people who get into retirement. They've been saving really well their whole life, but they're struggling with that transition to go from making income to not making income and to living on what they've saved.
Yeah. Archie, we're not psychologists or therapists, and we don't try to act like it, but it does make you wonder what causes people to sort of, when they do transition into retirement, they've got a financial plan and they've got resources and they don't really have to worry about running out of money, most likely. What is it that's really behind that sort of hesitance or a level of discomfort about spending? Now, you kind of turn the spigot around from saving to spending. What is it that causes people to struggle with that, do you think?
It's so hard to identify exactly. I think everybody has a unique reason
some
for
people
that.
are worried about running out of money, and that just is like they've got a sense of scarcity that has been with them since probably their first money memory, when they first thought about money and scarcity, depending upon how they were raised.
Yeah, depending on what their parents taught them and so on. Yeah, it's hard to say exactly. One of them, I think, probably is just being someone with the habit of saving, not spending beyond their means. And I think a lot of people who save really effectively, they never touch the savings. They say, I have income coming in, I save some of it, I never touch it, and I spend what's left over after I've saved. And it's sort of this habitual thing that has worked for them really well. I think it can be hard to change, just flip the script and say, okay, I'm now going to touch this, even though I've trained myself over an entire career not to.
It's interesting. I have noticed that earlier in my career, having started, as a financial planner going on 34 years ago, some of our older clients had actually grown up during the Depression, and so they were absolutely impacted by that experience.
Yeah,
and living in a time where there wasn't an abundance, and so they were very much savers more than spenders. And a common refrain was, my parents always taught me never spend the principal, only spend the income.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a sort of an approach to investment management and spending that's kind of gone by the wayside, I think, probably as a result of a much lower interest rate and dividend environment that we've become accustomed to.
Yeah.
But it does seem like there are fewer people that are worried about that transition from savings to spending than I recall in the earlier part of my career.
Yeah. Well, I think another big reason for being worried about that is if you're someone who is more saving oriented and less spending oriented, you're again, there's that switch to, I don't want to spend that money. That's my safety net. I draw some sense of security and comfort from that. That's what makes me feel like I can endure whatever comes along. But there's also this sense that, or maybe a need to sort of move beyond, like what you said, with the, don't spend the principal, just spend the interest. I think there's often a need to sort of educate yourself about the markets, about how to approach a retirement portfolio, what a retirement portfolio is for, how you take withdrawals out, and how you deal with market volatility. Because I think another big one is the fear of market volatility. Many people who are retiring now vividly remember 2008. They were, probably midway through their career at the time, and they watched this nest egg that they've been working on for a while decline rapidly. They've seen other market events more recently, and having that fear, well, what do I do if that happens right when I retire? What does that mean for me? Am I going to be able to continue to support myself? And the last thing I want to do is take money out during that time. So I think there's maybe some fear around the market, and it's understandable. I think it just takes a little bit more time educating yourself on market history and the impact of different withdrawal rates on a portfolio that's struggling during market volatility.
Yeah, it's interesting. The same people I have found that worry about this sort of thing are also the people that have a hard time pulling the trigger on retirement.
Yeah.
Right. So they postpone doing maybe some of the things that they would like to do, and don't retire because they're worried about having to start drawing on their portfolio, and that's great. I mean, that may be how people find purpose. I know I'm going to struggle with that, not so much for financial reasons, but because this is what I do. I mean, my identity is, I'm Rob and I'm a financial planner, right?
Yeah.
So, what am I going to be if I'm no longer a financial planner? I'm Rob and I sit on the couch. That would be bad. That would be bad. Or it's like, I'm Rob and I like to eat pimento cheese sandwiches. I mean, you got to have a sense of purpose. But it is interesting that a lot of people who struggle with this idea of going from saving to spending are oftentimes the same people that struggle with, okay, is it time to retire or not? And there are lots of reasons why people decide to retire.
Sometimes they don't decide at all. It just happens.
Sometimes they're forced. In fact, most people retire sooner than they thought they were going to, the research shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a certain reframing of your way of thinking that needs to happen.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's some things that your financial planner can do for you to make that a much easier transition.
Yeah. Well, I think one way to help reframe, and of course, it's not as simple as flipping the switch and hearing the right insight or asking the right question that makes this happen. I think it's a gradual process of becoming accustomed to a very, very different way of viewing your portfolio and viewing how you earn, how you find purpose and how money comes in the door, where it comes from. I think it's important to ask, what were you saving for? Because, if you never turn that off and continue in the, I'm going to save, and never spend this money, never retire, always work. Well, I mean, then you can't take it with you. So what were you saving for? And I think reframing and saying, well, what were the things that I wanted to do when I was, when I envisioned myself retiring? And then think of it like, okay, so one of my activities is I'm an investor. I invest in the greatest companies in the world. I invest in government debt. I invest in, you name it. And that generates income and growth for me, and maybe you do that, or maybe you hire someone to do that for you. And that's where money's coming in. And then you say, well, okay, I'm also someone, I volunteer for the local food bank. I make sure that people who have a hard time getting food on the table have a place to go to feed their families. whatever it is, and just sort of rethink where the income is coming from. It's not that you don't earn money anymore. It's that your money is doing the money earning. You have enough now that it can do it for you.
I was talking to a business owner who was struggling with this, and it was time for that person to hand over the reins of this business that he had built to the next generation. And the way that he sort of framed his thinking was, I have built this business, and one of the reasons that we've been successful is because I've hired talented people, and they've allowed us to magnify our impact in the community. So he was able to leverage employees to generate revenue for the business, which in turn paid the employees and created profits for the owners. He said, Rob, the way I'm looking at this is that I've saved some money, and now I have this little army of dollars out there, and their job is to make me more dollars.
Right.
So instead of managing people, I'm managing dollars.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just a different way of looking at things. So however you get there, you got to get to that point.
I think if you were saving in a savings account and not really earning much money, that would be the mindset of, well, I need to keep saving, because in that case, you would likely run out of money. But what you're doing is you're investing, right? You invest in Apple. Well, the army of Apple employees that are generating, selling, developing, and selling, some of the most interesting, useful, awesome technology in the world. Well, you now own a piece of that, and the profit comes back to you through appreciation, and if there's a dividend, this is where I was talking about earlier. I think the education piece, understanding what it means to invest, and how a diversified portfolio with the right amount of risk can enable you to say, all right, it's time to step back. I can start living on that, and then doing the things that I want to do. And maybe it's sometimes I want to keep doing my job. I like my job, but I want to know that, if at any point in time I had to quit and I had to retire unexpectedly, I'd be okay, and I could live on my portfolio and my Social Security and pension or whatever you have available to you. So
let's talk about a couple of things that people can do to gain greater clarity and confidence around this topic. I mean, one of them clearly is to have a financial plan.
Yeah.
And to stress test that against good and really bad types of economic and market scenarios. And so if you can get the confidence that you in the idea that you're not going to run out of money, and you add to that this concept of a scalable lifestyle. I love this idea of a scalable lifestyle, one in which you can ramp up your spending on experiences when times are good, and you can tighten the belt and reduce those expenditures when times are not so great. That can really go a long way in terms of giving you the confidence that you need in order to go from being a saver to being a spender.
And by the way, the most important step to creating a scalable lifestyle is being debt-free. Because those are the payments that once you go into debt, you can't just stop making those payments.
Yeah.
If you're debt-free, well, you just don't buy it. So you just don't pay for it or whatever it is and you just delay it. So that's, yeah, so I would agree. I think having a good financial plan, that way well, if I spend X every year, and every 5 years I buy a new car, and every other year I take a big vacation, what are the odds, given a wide range of possibility, that I don't run out of money? If you have 1,000 scenarios, yeah, you get a pretty good sense of your probability that you'll hit your goals and fund your retirement.
The reality is most financial planners have a tool to help you get there.
Yeah.
they can test that. I mean, we certainly do.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we have it set up so that if it's a Saturday night and you're worried about the stock market because it went down on Friday, you can click a button and say, am I still okay?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You can do it. You could do it at 2 a.m. in the morning. You don't even have to call us, thankfully.
Yeah. So yeah, there is, if you're planning well, there are lots of great reasons to be confident that you can switch from earning and saving to spending and doing the things that you want to do. That's the big thing. The more you educate yourself, the more you plan, the more confidence you'll have to make that switch if it's something that you're finding difficult. Or at least you've done it, but you don't feel good about it. Having a good plan is the best way, and educating yourself, that's the best way to build confidence in that. So
if you don't have a planner, you can always call one of the planners at Hoxton Planning and Management. We'll get you squared away.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, I think that's about all we have time for today. We could keep talking about this topic, and I'm sure we'll also do an episode on the flip side of this problem. But we'd also love to hear from you all. If you have an idea for an episode, please comment below. Let us know what you'd like to hear about, or share your thoughts on this topic. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and like the video. That's a huge help to us. Share it with your family and friends, and we will look forward to seeing you next time. You've been watching Last Paycheck, weekly wisdom to help you retire and stay that way. If you like this show, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Last Paycheck is available anywhere you get your podcasts.